20 seasons, 20 years of heartbreak, healing, and horses. And yet, heading into season 20 of Heartland, the one question that every single fan cannot stop asking is this: what happens to Amy Fleming now? Not Amy the horse whisperer, not Amy the grieving widow, not Amy the daughter, the sister, or even the mother, but Amy the woman who has given everything she has to a piece of land in Hudson, Alberta, and who might finally be standing at the edge of something completely new. Because here is the thing that the show has been quietly building toward for seasons now. Amy has survived the unsurvivable. She lost Ty. She raised Lyndy alone. She poured her pain into every horse she ever healed. And she kept showing up to that ranch, day after day, because Heartland was the only thing that made sense when everything else fell apart. But what happens when even Heartland stops being enough? What happens when a brand new ranch enters the picture, one that could pull Amy away from everything she has ever known and force her to ask the hardest question of her entire life? Is staying at Heartland an act of love, or is it an act of fear? That is exactly what season 20 is setting up. And by the time this video is over, you're going to see Amy's story in a way you never have before. Stay with it, because this one is going to hit different. To really understand what season 20 means for Amy Fleming, you have to go back. Not all the way to the beginning, but to the moment everything changed. The moment Ty Borden died. That single event did not just break Amy as a character. It broke the entire emotional foundation of the show. Heartland had always been built on two people, Amy and Ty, and the idea that love, hard work, and a piece of good land could hold a family together no matter what life threw at them. When Ty died, that foundation cracked right down the middle. And the show had to figure out, just like Amy did, how to keep going without him. And to the credit of the writers and of Amber Marshall herself, Amy did keep going. But it was never clean. It was never a straight line from grief to healing. There were seasons where Amy seemed to be doing okay, where she was focused on Lyndy, focused on her work with horses, focused on being present at the ranch. And then something would happen: a song, a photograph, a horse that reminded her of him, and you could see it all come rushing back. The loss never fully left. It just learned to live alongside her. What the show did really well in those post-Ty seasons was show us that grief is not a chapter you finish. It is something you carry. And Amy carried it in the most human way possible. She did not fall apart every episode. She did not suddenly become a different person. She just kept moving, kept loving, kept healing animals the way she wished someone could heal the part of her that still ached. But here is what is important going into season 20. Amy is not the same woman she was when Ty died. She has grown in ways that are quiet but enormous. She has raised a daughter largely on her own. She has built a reputation as one of the most gifted horse whisperers in the country. She has held her family together through things that would have broken most people. She has become, without anyone really making a big speech about it, the emotional backbone of Heartland Ranch. And that is exactly what makes this new season so fascinating and so emotionally loaded. Because the show is now asking, what does a woman like that do next? When you have spent years being strong for everyone else, when you have poured yourself into a place and a purpose, when you have survived the worst thing imaginable, what does your new beginning actually look like? That is the question sitting at the heart of season 20. And the answer, it seems, might be tied to a ranch that nobody saw coming. There is something about a piece of land that does things to people. It pulls at them. It calls to them in ways they cannot always explain. And in the world of Heartland, land has never just been land. It has always been identity. It has always been legacy. It has always been the physical proof of who you are and what you stand for. So when a brand new ranch enters the story in season 20, a ranch that nobody in the Heartland universe has ever seen before, you have to stop and ask yourself, why now? Why this place? And why does it seem like everything about this ranch is pointed directly at Amy Fleming, like an arrow aimed straight at her chest? Because this is not just a new location on a television show. This is not just a change of scenery to keep things fresh after 20 seasons. In Heartland, a new ranch means something. It means history. It means secrets. It means that someone, somewhere, built something on a piece of ground, and that whatever they built is now about to collide with Amy's world in a way that will leave nothing untouched. Think about what we already know about how Heartland uses land as a storytelling tool. Heartland Ranch itself is not just where the Fleming family lives. It is who they are. Every fence post, every barn door, every open field carries the memory of someone who loved that place. Jack built his whole life on that land. Amy grew up on it. Ty is buried in the soil of that story forever. The ranch is not a setting. It is a character. And the writers of this show know that better than anyone. So when they introduce a new ranch in season 21 that is being described as a place that could genuinely change everything, they are not doing it casually. They are doing it with full knowledge of what land means in this story. They are doing it because they need something powerful enough to actually move Amy. And after everything she has been through, after all the loss and all the healing and all the years of holding on, it takes something truly extraordinary to move a woman like her. Now here is where it gets really interesting. The details around this new ranch are being kept close to the chest by the production team, which in itself tells you something. When Heartland keeps a secret, it is usually because the reveal is worth protecting. The show has never been the kind of production that makes noise about nothing. Every major story development that has ever hit this show, Ty's death, the family land disputes, the arriving strangers with hidden connections, all of it was handled with a certain quiet confidence. They let the story do the talking, and the story right now is whispering something very specific. It is whispering that this new ranch has a past, that whoever owns it or whoever used to own it has a thread that connects back to Amy's life in a way she never expected. Some fans are pointing toward a connection to Ty's history before he ever came to Heartland. Others believe the ranch belongs to someone from Amy's own bloodline, a connection to her mother Marion that the show has never fully explored. And there is another theory quietly gaining ground in the fan community that this ranch was once a place Ty dreamed about. A place he mentioned once, in passing, that Amy never forgot. Any one of those possibilities would be enough to shake Amy's world. But here is what makes all of them so emotionally powerful. It does not really matter which one turns out to be true. What matters is that this ranch represents something Amy has not allowed herself to have in a very long time. A choice that is entirely her own. Not a choice made out of grief. Not a choice made out of duty to her family or loyalty to her grandfather or love for a man she lost. A choice made simply because Amy Fleming, the woman, not the widow, not the daughter, not the caretaker, sees something in this place that speaks to her. Something that says there is still a life out there waiting to be lived. Something that says the next chapter does not have to look anything like the last one. And that is what makes this mystery ranch the most dangerous and the most beautiful thing to enter this story in years. Because it is not just a place. It is a mirror. And when Amy looks into it, she is going to have to decide who she sees looking back. There is a certain kind of person who is so good at holding others together that nobody ever stops to ask if they themselves are falling apart. They show up. They stay strong. They pour themselves into the people and the places they love, and they do it so quietly, so consistently, that everyone around them just assumes they are fine. They assume that strength like that does not have a cost. They assume that a person who keeps going must not be struggling. Amy Fleming is that kind of person. And season 20 is finally ready to crack her open, not in a dramatic, explosive way, not with a single moment that changes everything overnight, but in that slow, aching, deeply human way that the best storytelling always works. The kind of cracking that happens on the inside first, where nobody else can see it, where even the person going through it tries to convince themselves that everything is okay, that they are okay, that they have already done the hard work of healing and now they just need to keep moving forward. But moving forward and actually living are two very different things. And somewhere deep inside Amy Fleming, in a place she has not visited in a very long time, she knows that here is the internal conflict that season 20 is quietly laying the groundwork for. Amy has built her entire post-Ty life around one single idea, that staying at Heartland Ranch is the right thing to do. And on the surface, that idea makes complete sense. Heartland is her home. It is where her daughter is growing up. It is where her grandfather still wakes up every morning and drinks his coffee and holds the whole family together just by being there. Staying at Heartland has felt like the most loyal, most loving, most responsible choice she could make. And for a long time, it genuinely was. But loyalty and love can quietly become something else when you hold onto them too tightly. They can become walls. They can become the very thing that keeps you safe from the world outside and the very thing that keeps you from growing into who you are still supposed to become. And the question that season 20 is pressing right up against Amy's heart is this: has Heartland Ranch become Amy's home? Or has it become her hiding place? That is not an easy question, and it is not meant to be, because the answer is probably both. And living with both of those things at the same time, loving a place deeply and knowing that the love has started to hold you back, is one of the most painful and most honest experiences a human being can go through. Now, layer on top of that the reality of Lyndy, because Amy is not just making choices for herself. Every decision she makes, every door she opens or closes, every risk she takes or avoids, all of it lands on her daughter too. Lyndy is growing up at Heartland Ranch, surrounded by family, surrounded by horses, surrounded by the kind of roots that most children never get to have. That is a beautiful thing. Amy knows it is a beautiful thing. And it makes the pull towards something new even more complicated, because wanting more for yourself when you are a mother can feel, in the quiet moments, like wanting less for your child. But here is what Amy has not yet let herself fully see. The version of herself that is stuck, that is going through the motions, that is healing horses but not healing the last untouched part of herself. That version of her mother is what Lyndy is also watching. Children do not just learn from what their parents say. They learn from what their parents do. They learn from whether their parent looks alive or just present. And Amy, for all her strength and all her love, has been present for a long time without being fully alive. That is the wound underneath the wound. That is the thing season 20 is reaching for. And then this new ranch appears, and something shifts in Amy that she cannot explain and cannot control. It is not excitement exactly. It is not ambition. It is something quieter and more unsettling than either of those things. It is recognition, like a part of her that went to sleep a long time ago just opened one eye. Like some version of Amy Fleming that got buried under grief and duty and years of being needed by everyone around her, just sat up slowly and said, "Wait, is this for me?" That moment of recognition is the most dangerous thing that has happened to Amy in years. Not because it is bad, but because once you feel it, once that sleeping part of you wakes up and realizes it has been asleep, you cannot put it back. You cannot unfeel it. You cannot go back to the version of your life where you did not know it was there. And that is exactly where Amy Fleming is standing at the start of season 20, on the edge of herself, looking out at something new and feeling, for the first time in a very long time, something that feels a lot like hope. The only question is whether she is brave enough to walk toward it. Nobody changes in isolation. That is the truth that most people forget when they are standing at the edge of something new and exciting and terrifying all at once. They think about what the change means for them. They think about what they are walking toward. But they do not always stop to think about the invisible threads that connect them to every single person they love, and how every step they take in a new direction pulls on every one of those threads. At the same time, Amy Fleming is connected to people in ways that go so deep they are almost impossible to measure. And season 20 is about to show us what happens when a woman that deeply connected to her world starts to move in a direction nobody expected. It is not going to be clean. It is not going to be simple. And it is not going to leave anyone around her untouched. 20 seasons is not just a number. It is a statement. It is a show looking the entire television industry in the eye and saying, we are still here. Our story still matters. The people who love these characters have not gone anywhere. And neither have we. Very few shows in the history of television ever make it to 20 seasons. And the ones that do almost never make it with the same heart they started with. They drift. They change too much or not enough. They lose the thread of what made people fall in love with them in the first place. They become a version of themselves that longtime fans watch with a mixture of nostalgia and quiet disappointment, loving what it was while struggling to connect with what it has become. Heartland has not done that. And that is genuinely remarkable. The show that began as the story of a young girl healing horses on her family's ranch in Alberta has grown into something far bigger and far deeper than anyone could have predicted in those early seasons. It has become a meditation on grief and resilience, on what family actually means when the people you started with are gone and the people who remain have had to rebuild themselves from the ground up, on what it means to love a piece of land so deeply that it becomes part of your identity, and what happens when that identity starts to feel both like a gift and a cage at the same time. Season 20 is not just another season of Heartland. It is the show asking itself the same question it is asking Amy. What does a new beginning look like when you have 20 years of history behind you? How do you honor everything that came before while still being brave enough to move towards something you have never seen? How do you stay true to your roots without letting those roots wrap so tightly around you that you cannot breathe? These are not small questions, and Heartland has never been a show that gives small answers. What makes this season feel genuinely different? What makes it feel like a turning point rather than just another chapter is the sense that the writers are not playing it safe anymore. After 20 seasons, they have earned the right to take real risks, to push Amy into territory that is uncomfortable and uncertain and emotionally raw, to let the supporting characters surprise us in ways we did not see coming, to introduce new elements like this mystery ranch that do not just add to the story but fundamentally challenge the assumptions the story has been resting on for years. And at the center of all of it is a woman who has spent 20 years being one of the most beloved characters in Canadian television history. Amber Marshall has carried Amy Fleming through every single emotional landscape this show has created, and she has never once made it feel like a performance. It has always felt like a life being lived in real time. That quality, that extraordinary realness, is what has kept audiences coming back season after season. Not the drama, not the horses, not the beautiful Alberta landscape. Amy Fleming herself. The specific, irreplaceable, deeply human way that Amber Marshall has always made you feel like you know this woman. Like she could be your neighbor, your sister, your friend. Watching that woman step into a new beginning, watching her choose herself, maybe for the first time, is not just good television. It is the kind of storytelling that reminds you why stories matter in the first place. Because a good story does not just entertain you. It shows you something about your own life that you did not know how to see before you watched it happen to someone else. And maybe that is what Heartland Season 20 is really offering its audience. Not just Amy's new beginning, but a reminder that new beginnings are always possible. That the land you have been standing on your whole life can still surprise you. That the person you have been for 20 years is not necessarily the only person you are allowed to become. That grief is not the end of the story. It is just a part of the story that makes everything that comes after mean so much more. Amy Fleming has been standing at the edge of herself for a long time now. And Season 20 is finally, beautifully, asking her to jump. The only question left is, are you going to be watching when she does?